Mademoiselle gets the mic for the second story. She is in many ways, the voice of moral authority within this group. She's a little older. She is sort of the godmother figure of everybody, and she tells this story of a mule driver. A mule driver in the service of the Queen of Navarre, the sister of King Francis I, who is Marguerite de Navarre. Yeah, we'll leave that aside. The story is of a mule driver's wife. Mule driver has to go out of town, leaves his wife at home, along with the few servants that they have, and one of whom has been apparently uh, making advances towards the wife. They have a live-in apprentice, it sounds like, who has been pressing the wife for some attention, and she's been resisting. And apparently, it's been going on for some time, and now the husband is away, and he decides he's going to take advantage of this opportunity as he sees it. And so he breaks in. He breaks into the wife's bedroom as she is asleep. The the story makes very clear that she had like a 12-year-old lass with her, probably another servant. It's not clear that it's a daughter or anything. It sounds more like it's another apprentice servant. Not uncommon in the merchant culture of the time. The uh, the the attack is quite violent. The attack is brutal, and the Mademoiselle suggests in some ways that he was reduced from his human state at all. His love was no more than animal lust, and he would have understood the language his mule spoke better than he understood the virtuous appeals to reason that she now made. And that little term of mules speaking, understanding the speech of mules, kind of rings the Decameron bell a little bit and says, well, gee, the speaking mules, interesting. The tradition of storytelling is sort of recasting it here, and he's this excuse me, this mule driver's apprentice starts chasing the wife around the room, and she is fighting back. She escapes several times, apparently able to beat him back. She's got some strength behind her, and he starts stabbing her. He walks in with a knife or a sword or something like that. Apparently, again, Wazil mentions that he came into her room wearing nothing but his shirt and clutching his bare sword in his hand. And you can read into the sword all you want there, but he is armed and he is there for a specific purpose. And he stabs her multiple times, apparently in the back, before he can subdue her and rape her and then scamper off. And the 12-year-old who had been sitting there watching all of this, which adds a new level of horror, 12-year-old girl, just witnessing this in the same room, cowering, understandably. She runs off, and she alerts the neighbors, and they come and they try and help her, and she is beyond help. She is dying. She has multiple fatal wounds, they say, and she cannot speak, but her mind is clear. And they specifically, Wazil specifically mentions that they bring a priest in, and the priest speaks to her, about not about the crime, not about who did this, but about the position, or is she ready to go and and meet God, and what is the state of her soul. And now, on the one hand, the priest is there for a specific reason, and he might not want to be, dredging up all the terror and horror that the woman had just gone through and is trying to calm her down. But on the other, there is no mention in the story that anybody actually came to her and said, what happened to you? Can you describe what happened? That is not really referenced at all. And in fact, she can't speak. They make a specific point that she can't speak, but she can communicate through signs, presumably through looks and minor hand motions, I would guess. I don't know. The realism you can't really lean on too hard here. But she is clearly clear-headed, and she is able to communicate just without speech, which is an interesting device. She can't speak. We have to sit there and imagine what is going through her head. What is going through her head when the priest is talking to her about, meeting God and having grace and all of this? What is going through her head at that moment when all of these men, the priest and presumably a lot of the neighbors, are asking her, are trying to help her? Is there anything that she would say? Is there a difference in that room of neighbors? Is there a difference between what the men are interpreting from what she's saying and what the women are interpreting from what she's saying? Because I think there is. I think the whole thing boils down to the difference between what you make of this situation. Because at the end of the story, now they say, okay, she died, and she was held out as a martyr of chastity because she fought to protect her chastity. She fought for something abstract, for something like an ideal virtue as recommended in the Bible. I don't know about that. I think she is being reduced to this, she's being elevated to this symbol so that she can be reduced as a human being. The rape itself is no longer really the matter here. She fought to protect her chastity, and she is being hailed for that, celebrated for that, as a symbol more than as a woman. And then you get Wazil come in afterwards, and you get these nice little interpretations of the story after each story. And Wazil's talks about the value of that chastity. She seems to be reinforcing this notion of, or this interpretation of the story. The idea that she is an example. And she does it in a particularly pointed way, I would say. So let us humble ourselves, for God's graces are not given to men for their noble birth and for their riches. Interesting note there, because this is a room full of aristocrats. Not for their noble birth. Little criticism there. Does rape happen among the wealthy and the aristocratic too? He has no regard for persons, but elects whom he will, and those whom he has elected, he honors with virtues and crowns with his glory. Often does he choose that which is low, that he might confound that which the world places high and considers worthy, even as he himself has said, let us not rejoice in our own virtues, but let us rejoice that we have inscribed in the book of life, from which nor death, nor hell, nor sin can erase us. That's all nice, but perhaps you heard my emphasis on those pronouns. Now they're all capitalized, as Christianity would have it. But there are repeated pronouns in there. There are repeated references to the maleness of the Godhead, to the figure of God, to the divinity of God being couched in a particular male construction. There was not a lady in the company who did not have tears in her eyes. So moved were they by the magic and glorious death of the mule driver's wife. That is the very next line after this little homily about he. So there is a implicit distinction between male and female in this story. At critical moments, we see the distinction, and it is one of perception. I think that the perception of women of this story would be different from the perception of men, and it plays to them differently within that little room that they're all discussing, or with that group. They're confronting the notion of rape, of sexual assault, of the abuse of women, and the treatment that they can expect. Her story is not one of rape. The rape is just sort of secondary. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, she was raped and killed. Yeah, these things happen. But at least she fought for her chastity. A disconnect. Her humanity is being rejected. The humanity of women is being rejected. And she is being forced into this silent role of being a martyr for something abstract that supports a system of male dominance, quite frankly. The ultimate male dominance being God, but male dominance in the aristocracy as well. Because, well, these things don't happen among the polite classes, do they? Rape and murder. Oh, it's so grisly, it's so crude. Very early on in the stories, Mademoiselle, the moral voice for the whole group, is planting this seed. Violence, gender disparity, and perception. This will develop as the stories unfold.